Hello, I'm Chautauqua County Executive P.J. Wendel. I would first like to take a moment to thank everyone who puts on a uniform and protects our communities each and every day. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for all you do. I stand before you today to address recent developments in the corrections officer strike across New York State. Just days ago, Governor Kathy Hochul issued an executive order permanently barring corrections officers who were terminated after a recent strike from obtaining future employment in the state's public service system. I wholeheartedly disagree with this policy and ask Governor Hochul to please reconsider. These officers took a stand because they were desperate for change. They faced chronic understaffing, mandatory overtime, excessively long shifts, and the ever-growing threat of violence within our prisons. Instead of addressing these concerns, the state responded by blacklisting them, stripping them of their careers, and canceling their health insurance. New York needs experienced correctional officers now more than ever. We must choose reform over retaliation. One of the key factors behind this crisis is the HALT Act, a reckless policy that has empowered violent offenders while stripping the officers of the tools they need to maintain order and safety. Since the enactment of the HALT Act, we have seen a sharp and undeniable rise in assaults against officers, nurses, caregivers, civilian staff, and even inmates themselves. The data speaks for itself. From 2019 to 2024, assaults on correctional officers has risen by a staggering 85%, while inmate-on-inmate violence has surged by 81%. This is completely unacceptable. The recent strike by correctional officers was not an act of defiance. It was a plea for help. It was driven by worsening prison conditions that have made facilities unsafe for both inmates and staff. When the officers stood up for their safety and the safety of those in their care, they were met with threats, termination, and a complete disregard for their well-being. We cannot allow these conditions to continue. That is why today I am calling for the immediate repeal of the HALT Act and the reinstatement of officers who wish to return to service. I call on Governor Hochul to take action and side with our law enforcement community, not the pro-criminal activists that passed the HALT Act. I urge Governor Hochul and the legislature to listen to the men and women who have dedicated their lives to protecting our communities. It is time for meaningful reforms that will restore order to our correctional facilities, ensure safe working conditions, and uphold fairness in employment. My door is always open to help facilitate this dialogue. I have always and will always back our law enforcement community, not only here in Chautauqua County, but across the state. To the correction officers and their families who find themselves unfairly cast aside, I want you to know that here in Chautauqua County, we recognize and value your dedication and service. If you are considering a change, I invite you to explore opportunities within Chautauqua County government. We need dedicated public servants like you, and we welcome you with open arms. Visit chqgov.com/jobs to learn more about how your skills can continue to make a difference right here in our county. The time for action is now. We must stand together and restore safety and fairness to our correctional system. We must stand up for those who have stood up for us. Recently, I was given a letter that was sent to each and every incarcerated individual within the Lakeview Shock Incarceration Facility right here in Chautauqua County. I had a chance to stand by the men and women who dedicate their lives to protecting our communities and those who are inside those walls and those fences. The Correction Association of the State of New York, an independent group who has oversight of the docks facilities throughout New York State, sent a letter, and there were some concerning points. And I quote, "We know that the leadership, strength, and conflict resolution of incarcerated individuals are the backbone to safety and security in our prisons." It further goes on to state that the voices of incarcerated individuals must be central in shaping the future of prisons in New York State. I wholeheartedly disagree with that letter. We need to listen to the men and women who have dedicated themselves to protecting our communities and protecting those who are incarcerated. Some may criticize But we can't look at a few bad apples. We must look at the overall group who have remained dedicated and steadfast to maintaining safety, stability, and in many cases, civility in our correctional facilities. I ask all of us to stand behind our men and women in law enforcement, and to the correctional officers who are here in Chautauqua County. I stand behind you, I stand beside you, and you have my undying support. Thank you, and have a great day.